Good morning, Dr. Hickey, Dr. Pepper, Mr. Patterson, faculty, and fellow students. Today I want to share with you my journey with my father. I was born on August 29th, 2005, the last born after three boys. It was only 10 months later in June when my family began to fall apart. My mom and dad had been training racehorses for about 20 years in Fairhill, Maryland, and Newark, Delaware. One early morning in June, my dad went out on a wild young horse and she proceeded to run out of the gap at Fair Hill. When the filly got to the asphalt, she stumbled and fell on my dad. My dad was taken in a helicopter to the University of Maryland Shock Trauma Center. I don't remember any of it, of course. I was only 10 months old when the accident occurred, so it did not affect me right away. But he was not okay. The fall caused significant brain damage, and today he is now brain injured and paralyzed, living in Charleston, South Carolina. But as I've gotten older, the accident that happened years ago continues to hurt me. My parents stayed together after that accident until I was about 2 years old. My mom and his family had a lot of different opinions on how to deal with his brain injury, so it unfortunately ended with them splitting up. Once they split, things got even more difficult for my family. My dad moved into an apartment in Delaware because at the time he was stable enough to live on his own. On the other hand, my mom was left with four children and no home. I remember my mom always house sitting for people, and that would be our home until we house sat for the next person, and it was like this for a while until we got an apartment in Rising Sun, Maryland. By the time we moved there, my brother Matthew was married and had his own family, so he did not live with us. It was just me, my brothers Jesse and Hunter, and my mom. Soon, though, my dad grew worse, and he had to move to the south with his sister. I do not remember being much affected by his move there. I just know when he lived in Delaware, I would see him more often. My favorite thing to do was to ride around on his cane, acting like it was a horse. When I was little, I did not think much of having my dad around. I was so used to him not being there that I always just stuck to my mom. My mom was my rock. I did everything with her. And when we had the chance to visit my dad, I'd be excited. But after he left, my life continued on with my mom, and I never thought much of it. It wasn't until my mom got married again of what I thought my life could have been like with my dad. My mom married a guy who pretended to be kind, caring, and trustworthy man. But the truth behind the fake mask that he wore was that he was not a kind person. He ruined my idea of what family was. When he first arrived, I had so much hope for my family and having a father figure. But just months after the wedding, all of that shattered. During my time with my stepfather, I became jealous of my brothers because they got the chance of having my dad in their lives as a father, physically and mentally there. He would take them motorcycle and bike races. They got to go to points and do lead races, as well as horse showing and riding the racetrack pony around the track. He took them boating and experienced their first days of school. I was stuck with no memories of my dad and a stepdad that could care less about me or my well being. I wanted my dad the most when we lived with my stepfather, especially when he would say, "You have a dad already, don't come to me." Was he that dumb? I thought. My father may have been alive, but he was not mentally there. My dad barely remembered my age or my grade, and some days he would call me and think it was someone else. He got worse as the years went by, and whenever we visited him, I could see that he was worse. His comprehension and writing skills barely existed, and he could no longer walk. And at the same time, I had to be thankful. Since my brothers knew him before his injury, it was hard for them to be around him now. I could see it in their faces whenever we visit him. They are just sad, and it does not make me sad since that's the way I always knew him. I just would sometimes dream of what life would be like with my dad. Pictures we had always helped me imagine. I would see pictures of him galloping on the racetrack, win pictures, and him holding me when I was a baby. Whenever I was sad, I would look at them. And although they brought tears to my eyes, I felt happiness because once upon a time, I knew that I was that little girl my dad held. My dad being disabled did not even catch my attention when I was little, especially since he was stronger in the earlier years of his injury. There was two times when the two visits I went to see him that were most impactful on me. One time we went to Washington, D.C. and visited museums and tourist attractions. Another adventure I had with him was my first time in Charleston, South Carolina. We went to the town and then through the market, and going through the market, there was a bright pink bag with a brown horse on it. And I told him how much I loved it. And when my birthday came around the next month, it was in my mailbox. I was so happy. It felt so amazing. I picked that up right next to him, and then I actually got it. My heart was filled with joy. And those are the times when I felt complete, when we did stuff together. And even though he was in a wheelchair, he was still right by my side. Even though at the time he was able to do some activities, I still missed having a father that could experience life with me, like my first horse show. My dad rode and showed his whole life, so him being there for my first horse show would have been amazing. And every horse show since that first one, I always wanted my dad there, for him to see that I was showing just like he did, but he never could come. And although he was told, it would have been different with him being able to watch. It disappointed me when I got older because my dad was never there for anything important. He did not get to see me grow up and see my personality grow, even though I am still that little girl inside that smiles all the time. And he missed me growing up with my nieces and nephews, being an aunt. They were his grandchildren that he never even got the experience of being with. He missed me getting my first dog that I remember, and my favorite dog, Daisy. And he had dogs his whole life, I was told. And my mom and him were such animal people, and it makes sense why I love dogs and horses so much. He missed me getting my pony of a lifetime, Wise Guy. He had a pony like that. Christmas was his name, and this is how I connected with my dad through horses and showing. Similar stories made our conversations more meaningful and kept them going longer. He missed my first big rated horse show. It was at Devon, and my father showed there as a child. And as I went into the ring, I was so excited because as I heard the buzzer go off, Wise Guy took me around the course and it felt amazing. If only my dad was there to watch, I thought. He missed me learning how to ride four-wheelers. This was something my brothers taught me how to do. My brothers learned from my dad. I hope he would be proud to see them stepping up and teaching me things that he couldn't. I thought if only my dad was there for a lot of things. I wanted that family-like atmosphere so badly. And of course, I had my mom and brothers as family, but something was always missing. I felt like a piece of my heart was gone when we were not all together. My brothers took up that father role in many ways, and it made sense. And although they tried to be there for me, I still longed for that father-daughter relationship. From stories of people that knew him in the horse world to people that knew him as family, they always praised my dad. Hardworking, kind, brave, a horseman, and so many other things. And those are the things I strive to be every day. Right here is my mom, and I want to say thank you. Thank you for growing up right next to me, for making sure I always had a roof over my head and food to eat. Your continuous joy passes around to everyone, and through all the rough times, you have always put a smile on my face. Your hard work has allowed me to have an education and a future. You are the strongest woman I know, and every day you inspire me to be my best self. Now, this is my dad, and although he is not here physically and he cannot support me, he has made me who I am. He has shown me that circumstances do not determine the outcome of your reality. And him not being around has taught me to work hard and to be thankful and to never give up. I am working hard and overcoming every boundary because of my father, and for that I am thankful. His favorite song is I Can Only Imagine, and a verse in it says, I can only imagine walking by your side. And I can promise my dad right now that together, one day, we will walk side by side. Thank you.